Good afternoon, and welcome to the Joy Show, where being you is always enough. In fact, it's celebrated. I'm Barbara Jean, and I am so delighted that you've decided to join me today as we explore the unique and wonderful adventures of being human. All right, well, let us begin with our land acknowledgement. This sacred land has held story for thousands of years, stories that live in the fabric of who we are as a nation. And we would like to acknowledge and thank the original caretakers and knowledge keepers of this territory. The Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and all other nations from where we are seated today. We give thanks to the nations recorded and unrecorded, acknowledged and unacknowledged, who also share the responsibility for this territory. We honor the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and our responsibility to peaceably share and care for the resources that surround us. We are honored to be in this meeting place that many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island call home. We also acknowledge that as we continue to grow and expand on these lands, there is still unresolved and dangerous inequality and discrimination toward our BIPOC and 2S LGBTQ family. And by making these acknowledgments, we strive to be allies and take a part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. And I invite you to take a moment to honor the land that you are seated on. Well, I think it's been almost 2 weeks since a big storm hit Greece. The storm Daniel swept across central Greece, triggering landslides, destroying roads and bridges, and carrying away dozens of cars. At least 6 people dead, and the prime minister stated, "Our country is facing for the third day a phenomena unlike any other we've seen in the past." Heavy rainfall, which authorities said was the most extreme on record, has turned many villages in the low-lying area into a lake. You can see from the video that this was absolutely devastating. I believe across Greece, Bolivia, and Turkey, there were 14 deaths. So definitely a phenomena. Well, my guest today is my eldest son, Curtis, who lives in Calgary, is a fitness trainer and wellness coach. And he recently returned from his European vacation. Welcome, Curtis.
Thank you very much.
I'm so glad you're here, sweetheart. I'm so glad you made it home.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the planning for your vacation. What was it that you planned for your lovely first trip abroad?
My first European trip was going to be great. Well, it still kind of
Yes.
was, but it was supposed to be Paris for 2 days, then Athens for 2 days, and then it was an Airbnb that one of my clients owns. It's still in Greece, but it's just about a 4.5, 5 hour drive north. And that was for about a week, and then it was supposed to be Barcelona for 2 days, and then fly home from there.
So, how was Paris?
Paris is beautiful. That's the prettiest city I've ever been to, for sure. It's super nice.
Yeah. And how was the food?
Food's great. Wine was great. I had no concerns there.
Beautiful. So you get to Athens and you have 2 days in Athens before you go to, what's the name of the little town you went to
Uh,
when you left Athens?
Agios Leonis or something. I'm not sure exactly, but
Okay.
it's on like the Mount Pilion, I believe, is the
Yeah,
mountain that I was actually driving on. But
right. And I think that's where some of the heaviest rainfall hit, was
yeah,
that particular area. So you're at your B&B and things all of a sudden take a turn. Can you tell us what happened?
yeah. The first few days that I was there was fine. The weather was actually perfect. It was 30 some degrees, no clouds really in the sky, no wind. Really, it was great. Then it started raining one day, and basically never stopped. they had thunderstorm warnings and rain warnings, but like from Calgary, I'm used to rain warnings and things, and it's never anything, so you don't really care. It's just rain. It's like what's going to happen. The streets will get a little bit wet for a bit, and then it's gone. So that was a little different. I didn't know it was a massive storm that was going through. So
So tell me a little bit about how long it was before you lost power.
well, I was there for 4 days. That was fine, and then power went out on the fifth day, I believe it was, and it was
Mhm.
out for 2 full days, I believe, and then the water went out the same time as the power, but like a day in. So I had no power or water for one day, and then the water wasn't back on at all after that.
Wow, check that out. So this is near where you were staying, this picture we're seeing?
Yeah, this is just the main street, kind of at the bottom of the village. That water was just basically pouring down all the time, just constantly. The staircase that I took up was one building over, and it was bad, but it wasn't. It's a wider staircase, so it wasn't as bad as that one was. Um, but it still was flowing down the whole thing, though.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know there's been considerable damage that's been done in Greece. They'll be recovering for a while yet, for sure.
Yeah.
So now, how long was it that you were without water by the time you got to that next village and were able to get a hotel?
Well, I think it was 2 days at the Airbnb that I had that had no water, and then on the third day is when I left. And as far as I'm aware, even a week later, they still don't have water, or they still didn't have water. I'm not sure if they do now, but yeah, it was out for a while.
Okay, so what did you do with that? I mean, it's one thing to be without food for a few days, because I know you were without food as well. Um, but how do you deal with the water when you don't have water? Oh,
Oh,
there's
very.
the video. Listen to that roar.
Yeah, it was pretty loud. Well, I had 2 bottles of water that I had had in the fridge basically the whole time I was there, and I just kept filling them up, which was fortunate because they were like I had tap water that is drinkable tap water, so I didn't need to necessarily have bottled water on hand. But I just kind of always kept filling them up. I thought it's always good to have without any idea that I'd ever actually need it. So I had probably 4 liters of water when the water went out,
Mhm.
and I thought it would only be off for like a day. But yeah, on the third day, I was out of water. In the morning, I'd had the last of it. The little village, as long as the stores were able to open, would have water, but because there's no water anywhere, like no tap water, everybody's going to need bottled water in that entire area. So I know it's not going to last long. So that was definitely a concern.
Well, yeah, it would sell out quickly. So
Yeah.
what did you do that last day when you had no water?
Well, the last day is the day that I ended up driving or trying to drive back to Athens is that day. So I had the last like glass of water in the morning before I left, and once
Mhm.
the water was out, I figured, well, the sun's starting to come up. I should probably start driving, and hopefully I can make it. And the research that I was trying to do to see if there's any road closures or anything, it showed north of where I was closing, but Athens was only like a light drizzle. So I figured I could probably go south because the storm was mostly central. So cool. That's where I got stuck.
That's where you got stuck. So it looks
Yeah.
like the road is covered with water ahead of you.
Well, and that was what was behind me 5 minutes later. So
Wow.
I drove through that initially, and that wasn't there. This is like a little break in the weather that lasted for about 5 or 10 minutes. So I was able to get out of the car and take a picture of both sides.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like that's definitely not what it looked like when it was pouring rain when I first pulled up to it. But I'd already driven through that. Like I drove coming this way. I drove through that about 5 minutes before, and when I turned around to drive back because I realized I wasn't going to be able to go this direction, I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to go that way either.
Wow. And this is the beach.
Yeah, that car's not supposed to
Somebody's
be there.
yeah, cars are not allowed to park there. Wonder if he
No.
got a ticket. Um, yeah. It's interesting because we have pictures, I don't think we have them with us here, but you have beautiful pictures of how lovely the beach area was, prior to
Yeah.
events of that storm. What were some of the thoughts, as you were getting ready to leave the Airbnb in the hopes to get to Athens? What were some of the thoughts or concerns you had as you prepared to leave and head down that road?
I actually didn't have a ton of concerns when I was leaving. I knew that I was supposed to drop the rental car off that day, and then hit my last hotel. And then the next morning, I was flying to Barcelona. So I figured if I leave early enough in the morning, like just as the sun comes up, there'll be fewer cars on what's kind of a pretty narrow highway, like parts of it anyway. Yeah, and that there was super calm, quite calm when I was there normally, but definitely not at that stage. But so no, I honestly I didn't have too many concerns. I figured the roads were going to be, a little wet. There'd be a lot of rain. There might be a couple kind of like maybe rough spots, but I thought I was going to be able to get through it relatively easily. Because I didn't realize that the storm was that bad at that point either. Like I knew it was bad. Like I could see everything that was happening around me, but still, I'm at the bottom of a mountain, so I kind of figured, well, the water's running down the hill, like it's going to get worse down here than at the top. So if I can just kind of get out of this section, I should be okay, and then the highway to Athens should be open. So I really didn't have a ton of concerns when I initially left.
And so when you left, the rain had slowed down a bit, you said, or had it?
Yeah, like when I was loading up my car and stuff, the rain actually it hadn't stopped, but it was light. Like you didn't feel like you were soaked when you went back inside.
Right.
And so I thought, well, if there's a little break in the rain, this would be as ideal a time as any to start my drive. So that's why I left then.
Well, and it's interesting from my perspective because I mean, obviously, we'd not been in contact while you were away, but I was watching your Instagram posts because I was excited. Here you are traveling in Europe, first time traveling alone, and you're in these three countries. And so I was excited to follow, what you were eating and what you were doing and all that kind of stuff. So when I saw that you had no water, and then I had the sense that you were going to leave the B&B, and then I didn't hear from you. There were no posts for, I don't know, 12 or 14 hours. And I got to say that I'm probably glad you didn't post, being stranded on the highway and stuff. But at the same time, I was unsure because I just had it in my mind that you had left that safe building, although it didn't have water, and that maybe something happened on the road. So I was, as your mom, I was a mess in the morning looking at how many hours it had been since you posted.
Yeah, that was abnormal to wait that long between posting for sure. I got
Mhm.
stuck an hour into the drive, and so I was like, "Oh boy." So I didn't want to post because I didn't know. I wanted to wait until I got out of there first, so I didn't scare people,
Yeah.
because it was a very interesting experience. But
So when you got stuck, tell us about what happened there. Why were you stuck? What was
well, the first hour of that drive was one of the most challenging, like scary drives that I've ever done. Because coming up this road, there was like debris all over the place, like rocks and like broken tree branches and leaves and just everything all over it. And there was multiple sections where there was water rushing across the road. And so all those spots, I felt like, I was spraying water up the side of the car, but it was like they were not deep enough that it made me scared that I couldn't get through it. But I knew that it was not good that there was this much stuff on the roads. And so after about an hour, and also the clouds settled into the mountain. So I was basically just driving through super thick fog. So I had my hazards on. I was doing like maybe 15 kilometers an hour, but which is probably better anyway to try to avoid all the stuff. And then I pulled up to a massive river flowing across the road, and it also had an embankment at the side that I really didn't want to fall over. Um, and the way that the water was going, it was running down the mountain and straight across the road. So it was quite aggressive how fast it was going. But there was also water running down the road that I was on and meeting at that same point and then turning across the road as well. So it was a lot of water coming through. And so I didn't want to risk my rental car. It was too low. It's just too small of a vehicle. And I thought if I get stuck or if it actually does push me over this edge, that's a way worse situation than just stopping. And so obviously I stopped, and then I was hoping that maybe there'd be a break in the rain and the water would slow down a little bit. Um, but it just didn't happen. Five minutes later, maybe 10 minutes at the most. Hard to remember how much time that was. I decided I'd have to turn around and drive back to the Airbnb, even though I knew how tough that drive was. But I'm like, but I have no other option here. This road is gone. Um, and so I turn around, and then the road behind me was gone, maybe 10 seconds away from where I was stuck. And that's what that was. So that's what it looked like when the sun came out. When I first drove up to it with the wipers going full speed and the rain and everything, I couldn't understand what was happening because I couldn't even see the line on the road. And so I was looking, I'm like, I didn't see it turn. I'm like, where's the road? Like, it was actually confusing for a minute. And then it clued into me that it's not there anymore. And so I was like, oh, so I'm stuck in this very small window with no other roads and no pathways. There's no, like, I'm just sitting there.
And so what was what was your thought process initially when you realized you can't go backward and you can't go forward, you're actually stuck?
Well, it was a weird feeling at first because you're trying to process how that just happened because I was just there and now it's not, I can't go through it. It's unpassable. And then so I initially I was just like lost. I didn't really know what to think. So I called 911 just because I'm like, well, I need to tell somebody that I'm here because I don't know what else to do. And so I called them. They had such a hard time hearing me with the rain, and it was hailing too at that point. And so they were like you never should have left your house. And I'm like, well, I get that, but here I am. Like, what do you want me to do? And then they even said to me too, they're like, well, what do you want us to do? And I was like, well, that's not really the answer I was hoping for, but understandable though, because I'm like, this road, there has to be problems all over this road. Like, it can't just be where I am, knowing what I already drove through. So I was like, there's probably no way they can get to me anytime soon. So that was my initial thought. But plus, I also didn't have water with me.
Wow. So how
Yeah.
long did you sit there?
Well, fortunately enough, I only sat there for 6 hours. Um,
6
I
hours
had,
is a long time.
yeah, well, I had my shaker bottle out collecting rainwater so I could drink because I didn't have any water. So that was an interesting experience too. And you don't collect much water in a small container like this big. It takes forever to fill something like that. So you get like a sip every hour or so, but that's about all you get. Um, so 6 hours is how long it took before they opened it up. But I was already looking at like when the sunset and sunrise and all that was going to be because I knew I would be there overnight for sure. There was no way I was getting out of there before that. I also was looking at it going, if because it was only 8 in the morning that I got stuck, and the storm wasn't supposed to pass until 4 or 5 p.m. So I thought, well, that's 8 or 9 hours until they could even start cleaning off this road, and it's only going to be getting worse during that time. So I thought there's no way that I'm going to see anybody until at least the next afternoon, maybe morning. So yeah, I was under the thought that I'd be there for at least 24 hours, maybe more. And that was the hardest part, is having no idea how long you're going to be there. If I
Yeah.
was told it'd be 6 hours, well, that'd be one thing. But when you know you could be there for a day or even two, like, who knows, right? It was, yeah, that's the
Wow.
part that got a little tricky. But
Yeah, because obviously they're in a state of disaster. It
yeah.
hit most of the central part of Europe, also into Bolivia and Turkey. Um,
And I think in Libya, I think it wiped out three dams and killed either thousands or tens of thousands. I'm not sure what the number was, but it
wow.
was a huge
Wow.
number. And apparently, it's all the same storm. So
Yeah, 10,000 people missing.
yeah,
You know, that when you see the force of nature that way, and of course we have no control over what happens, um, the ideas that kind of run through our head. I know as your mom, I had some fear, you know, that maybe you got swept off the road, got into an accident of some sort. And so until your post came through, I was um, a little bit concerned because I had seen these videos,
yeah,
not necessarily the Libya, but all of the ones in Greece because I'd gone onto the Weather Network. So I knew how bad it was. And and I hadn't heard from you in a long time, which I'm glad I didn't see your posts. Now, as you were sitting there for those 6 hours, you ended up with some company.
yeah. When I was driving down the road there, that
Oh,
little guy.
look at him.
So I picked him up because I was driving down the highway there, and he was running literally right down the center of the road. And Right as I kind of was going by him initially, is where I saw the water rushing across the road. So we were both stuck in the same spot anyway, and so I stopped. And Greece is interesting because they have dogs and cats all over the place. That some of them have collars, some of them don't. I don't know if they're owned by anybody or if they're just community animals. So initially, I was like, well, he might just run away anyway. And then I was a little surprised when I went to open my door to see if I could see him somewhere. He literally was leaning against the driver's side door, so obviously he wanted to come in. So
Yeah.
I let him in, and he shook off like crazy and made a huge mess in the car, which cost me a lot of money to get cleaned at the rental car place. But it was worth it. It was a little bit of company, anyways, for the 6 hours I was sitting there.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's something about, when you don't have another person, a dog can be a valuable, partner while you sit and wait to help keep the imagination, in tow maybe.
Well, yeah, because the thing is it was four. I mean, it'd been raining for 4 straight days at that point, and I wasn't sure if he'd been out the whole time because there was no towns or villages close to where I was, not walking distance, anyways. And so for a dog to be running down the middle of the road, I'm like, he's not near anything. And so when I got him in the car, he was fine at first. He was just like shaking all the water off and stuff. And then after a bit, he's kind of like a little bit antsy. So when the rain kind of eased up a bit, I took him out and I took him over by like where there was a little stream. And so he started drinking water like crazy. I filled my cup up at that point, but I didn't really want to drink the mountain water just in case because I'd rather there could be bacteria, viruses, who knows what in it. So that was going to be a last resort if I absolutely had to. But I was doing the rainwater thing first. But then when I brought it into the car, he drank like half of it like immediately. So I was like, okay, well, he hasn't been drinking water. I had a bag of chips in the car in the back, so I just put a whole bunch of them on the seat, and he just destroyed them. So I was like, I don't think he didn't eat had even eaten in 4 days, is my guess. And it was so cold with the rain coming down that hard that he might have been okay, but I don't know how much longer he would have been fine on his own. So it was kind of nice to bring him in and at least have somebody to hang out with for a bit.
Well, you've got some company and, you saved, a dog from, some pretty rough circumstance, so
Yeah,
that's kind of
it
a good
works, right?
thing. Yeah. Now, as you're sitting there for all that time, one of the things you don't know is, are you gonna be there overnight?
Right.
How did you
Yeah.
feel about those thoughts when you began watching the day pass?
Well, knowing that, like realistically, there was no way I was going to get out of there before that, I started thinking about like what could I do. That's when I thought of, well, I'll collect water from the mountain just because the rain's going to stop before the sun comes back up, so I won't be able to keep that method going. So I'll leave it in the car and I'll only use it if I absolutely need to. I was thinking about ways to like lay the seats down or maybe lay the back area down to try to make it more comfortable. But I was also thinking that's going to be 12 hours of darkness isolated, which is a little bit of a scary thought. Plus, it's on a mountain. I don't know what else is on this mountain. Like, I don't really need to get out of the car, but like, there might be a bathroom break necessary in that whole stretch. And I'm like, I don't really know what's out there. And then the other part of it is it's just like it's a long time to just be sitting there without being able to do anything. So you don't really know what that's going to be like. So I was just more or less just, uh, you know, bracing myself for what was likely to come and just being ready for it. I didn't have a concern that I was going to die, but I didn't know how long the process was going to be because I've heard other stories where people are stranded in like these types of situations and it can be days before they get rescued. So I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what my process was going to look like. And so I was just trying to think about, water was the number one thing, obviously. At least Greece, where I wasn't super cold. So when you're sitting in the car, I don't need to keep it running the whole time, which is nice because then at least I can conserve gas. Start it up
Yeah.
every couple hours, or like if I go outside in the rain or whatever, come back in, it might be nice. But I was just really trying to think of like, it's going to be what it's going to be, and just trying to find ways to deal with it, really.
Well, good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. This is I mean, look at how deep that water is. Yeah, it's when you look at these videos and you see the damage that water can do, there's a washed away road, washed away bridge. It's it really gives you a sense of The force of nature is something not necessarily to be messed with, that's for sure.
No.
Um, wow. Yeah, I've never experienced a storm of that caliber. I think the closest big storm that I've experienced was when we had the ice storm here in Toronto a couple of years back, during the Christmas break, and that was very severe, thick ice everywhere, stunningly beautiful, but impossible to get around unless you had skates
Yeah.
because everything was ice. We're going to take a little commercial break here. You're watching The Joy Show on the New Thought Media Network, and we're talking about the devastation in Greece that my son got to vacation through. How sweet is that? So we will be back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. There is so much more to talk about. Be right back.
Blessings, everybody. My name is Jafon Seeley. Could you imagine what is actually possible when we start honoring and recognizing our inherent worth, realizing that we are that which is assisting and co-creating our experience? And with that understanding, start recognizing that every human, every individual, everything that we interact with reflects that same inherent worth.
It's not about an adventure, it's about the atmosphere of the consciousness of adventure, the lifestyle of adventure. How many people would say that their lifestyle is adventurous?
My name is Lisa Benson. I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and the author of Anchored in Bias, Fired Over White Tears. It's a book detailing my lived experiences with workplace bias and what fueled my passion for normalizing conversations about differences and creating safe spaces for everyone to bring the best version of themselves to life every day.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change.
Welcome back to the Joy Show. I'm Barbara Jean, and I'm really excited that you're here. And my guest today is my eldest son, Curtis, who lives in Calgary and just returned from a wonderful European vacation.
Wonderful.
And so we're talking about what it's like to get stranded by yourself in the middle of a heavy, heavy, once in a lifetime kind of storm, which is what hit Greece, Turkey, Bolivia, Libya, and on, obviously. So we were talking a little bit about this vacation of yours and some of the challenges you faced at the end. Tell me this, if you were to plan another European vacation, would you do it alone?
No. I wouldn't do it alone. I know a lot of people love solo travel. I didn't enjoy the solo aspect of it. Um, I'm introverted and extroverted. I'm like right in the middle. So for me, I wasn't really able to connect with other people because I was only in each place for like 2 days and then moving on kind of. So I didn't find that I was meeting anybody. So it just felt like a lot of time on my own, which I don't mind some, but it definitely wasn't for me. And it had nothing to do with getting stuck. I felt that way even in Paris on the first couple days. I love shared experiences. I would have loved to have had somebody there with me. So solo trips aren't really for me, but Europe I will definitely do again though.
Okay, okay. And is there anything about the planning of your trip that you would do differently after this experience, other than have somebody with you?
Not really. I think I actually planned it out more or less perfectly. It's pretty much impossible to predict that. Um, but yeah, everything kind of flowed basically smoothly all the way through until that point, and it would have been smooth all the way at the end too. But because I had it all mapped out as to going home and my next stages were, so yeah, it would have all worked. But yeah, just that storm. So
You sort of got a little interrupt in the middle.
yeah,
What's what's it like? I mean, when you're alone that much, because you were gone for what, about 2 weeks?
yeah, 15 days.
15 days. So you're gone for 15 days, you're by yourself the entire time. What are the conversations like in your head as you, because you're not accustomed to that, you work with people all the time. You're in countries where you don't speak the language. What was that inner conversation like for you being alone?
A lot of it was just I was trying to just more or less calm my mind down because I was looking at the people around me and how, like, I don't know, it's like a laid back energy over there, I suppose, where
Mhm.
they're kind of like, they're just kind of sitting there, they're having their little smoke and their coffee because everybody smokes over there. It's weird. That took me a minute to get used to,
Yeah.
but it just seems so like relaxed. So I more or less just told myself to just be calm and just relax through it and just see what the experience is and just take in what you can and then just learn lessons about yourself and everything. But mostly I just realized that I just didn't want to be alone there. But I didn't really feel lonely. I just felt like it could have been a much better experience is if I was with other people.
Right. Yeah, there's something about being able to share it, and then even as you reflect back on it, you have shared stories that you
Yeah,
can talk about, which is really, really wonderful.
yeah.
And that's so, Deja, can we put the sound on for this clip? Because
This one?
this is where you were when the rain
Oh,
hit.
well, this is before the rain.
My
It
office
is before the
view
rain,
for the
but it's
day.
Yeah,
It's
this
not
is the
so
day
bad.
before.
Look at that. Laundry hanging.
not beautiful.
Got to do my client follow-ups today, and definitely couldn't be in a more beautiful place to do it. Working from Greece. It's pretty sweet.
That part was.
Well, and what's interesting is looking at the videos prior to the storm.
Well, this is the first day that the rain kind of started.
So I will enjoy my coffee and maybe cook inside today.
Because at this point, I just still
That's
thought
not the same
it was
office
gonna
view I
be
had
rain.
yesterday.
Yeah, I just thought that was going to be rain.
Well, it's still raining like crazy. Last night, the thunderstorms and lightning was unbelievable. I haven't seen like light in the sky like that in a long time, but you can hear a little thunder still. The waves are crazy right now too. Like this is a heck of a storm. I didn't hear any hail or anything, which was in the warning, so we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get out of here again today, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, and that's the thing is, there you sit. It's interesting to see it the day before and when it first started and how it went from there. So I think, when we go on vacation or we plan any of these things, did you have any insurance or anything like health insurance or?
I got health insurance and stuff just in case, you just never know. I was there for a long time. I was on my own. I just had no idea if anything might happen. So I got that, but didn't need that part at least. turned out.
Yeah, thank goodness you didn't need
Yeah,
that.
almost.
But again, when you're planning a trip, because you can't plan for every scenario, we don't know when a storm is going to hit or what that's going to look like. So I think like some of these photos you took were absolutely beautiful.
That one's the little village that I found after getting stuck. This
Yeah.
place was super nice. That's the
Yeah.
best food I had on the entire vacation was there too, I think.
Really? What did
I
you eat
loved it.
there?
Well, it was just souvlaki or whatever, but it was great. And it was just like their potatoes they had with it, the little salads, like I don't know, everything about it. Maybe it was partly because I was able to eat real food and not chips and cold pasta with no anything on it.
No real food for days really ups the appreciation when you
Yeah,
get
could have very easily been that, but but the food that so
Oh,
this was
it's
that's the
beautiful.
restaurant, that's the view. Like it's just an upper level like kind of plaza type thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was yeah, it was a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's so when you go back now, you didn't get to do Barcelona.
No, I landed in the airport and then flew right home.
Okay, so tell me, uh, will you go back to Barcelona so you can have that experience?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, the nice thing with Calgary is we have a direct flight to Barcelona, which is why I wanted that to be my last leg of the trip.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I'll definitely go back for sure. Like I wanted to see it. I even like when I landed, I thought about even taking a cab into the city or whatever just to see the like the big church. I forget what it's called, but and then just immediately turn around and go back just so I could at least see something while I was there. But I didn't have time with my turnaround for my next flight, so I couldn't do it. But
Well, it's wonderful that you were able to make that last flight and you didn't have to change it. Did you
yeah,
have to pay to change your flight from Athens to Barcelona? Did that
yeah,
cost you extra?
yeah. I had to pay extra for that flight. I had to pay extra for the rental car, keeping it for 2 more days, and for the how dirty it got because of a wet dog. Um, and and then my two hotels that I had to book, then the at that little village, I wouldn't have needed those, and I lost part of my payment for the other one in Athens, and then I lost the entire stay in Barcelona, which was almost $700 for those hotels.
Yeah.
So I mean, in total, it was I don't know. It. I didn't pay an additional 1,200, but I paid like an additional probably like 700 or 800 maybe.
No, it
Um,
could have been worse.
yeah, yeah. If I had to change that other flight too, that wouldn't have been ideal.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
if I got stuck completely, because that Airbnb, my client told me that it was at least a week or so later. They were bringing supplies in from the water because the roads were all closed. Because there's like 6 bridges that needed to be rebuilt and things. So had I not left that day, there's a chance I might even still be there now. And that was like 2 weeks ago. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. So fortunately enough, I got out of there because that would have cost me a whole lot more, even just with work and stuff too, right? But
Yeah, and I think, that's when we look at, how we plan vacations or the things we do or what we expect, I think, there's expectations of what this is going to look like and what it's going to cost. And sometimes we stretch to afford the vacation. Fortunately, you were in a position where, that extra $700 was something you could manage. Not
yeah,
great to spend, but you could manage it.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know what a person would do if they were stuck and had no resources.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't leave myself in a position where I wouldn't have room in case something did happen. Like you just never know.
Yeah.
Um, so fortunately, yeah, no big deal that way, and it's just money; it'll come back.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And it seems like your work is busier than ever since you got home.
I know it's crazy busy since I've been back. I've yeah, tons of new clients, and my online stuff's even busier. So yeah, no, it's like two full time
Oh, what are
jobs
you doing
basically.
here?
And now you're just showing workout videos now.
Yeah, well, that's what you do.
I think that was my second workout back.
Yeah. What were you pushing there with your legs? What was the weight?
I actually don't remember that machine. I don't even know. 130 maybe.
Look at you
That was
getting
my leg
fit.
workout.
Yep. Leg day.
Just a quick
Well,
one.
just a quick one. I think that's part of the win for you as well. Like, were you able to keep up your workouts while you were away, or Did that kind of lighten up a bit with more
No,
walking?
before I left, I knew I wouldn't work out at all on that vacation. I didn't want to. I work
Yeah.
out all the time. I wasn't worried about it. And literally, actually, in the entire time I was there, other than the very last night that I stayed in Athens before I came back home,
Mhm.
I never even saw a fitness facility of any kind. That was the only time I did, and that's only because I think I was staying closer to the airport. I was in like a little suburb. I wasn't downtown, and so I was like in a community. So then I happened to walk past one. There was no cars in the parking lot, so I don't even know if it was open, but there was one there. But that was the
Yeah.
only time I even saw one. Otherwise, I didn't even see a gym while I was away.
But I'm sure you did a fair bit of walking.
Yeah, I think in Paris, the 2 days, it was like, I was probably doing like 24,000 a day, 22,000 steps a day.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty easy to do. I mean, Paris is a very small city and very dense. Not a place you necessarily want to drive in. I remember the bus ride from the airport to the hotel. I'm watching the traffic going, whoa, these
Yeah,
people are crazy.
the walking in Paris is brilliant just because there's a million things that you can see there too. And no matter where you're going, you walk past another 100 things that were worth looking at anyways. Like it's such a beautiful city.
Yeah.
I just walked all over the place. I didn't, other than like from the airport to the hotel, that was the only time that I wasn't walking. So
Yeah. And that's hair raising.
the driving,
Yeah.
in Paris, I found it actually fine. In Athens, though, holy Lord, that was something.
Yeah. Athens was worse.
Athens is way worse. In I don't know if it's all of Greece or if it's just that area, but in Athens, basically, if you're on a motorbike or a moped or anything like that, a scooter, whatever, there are no rules that apply to you. You can do anything you want. Um, I was in my cab coming back from the airport, like just coming to the hotel for my first day there, and we were driving down. It was like a 4-lane highway or whatever it was, and there was two cars, us and another car, right next to each other, and a bike shot right through the middle of us. And that's normal. The cab driver didn't even respond or react at all. It just happens. And all over that city, when you're driving down a road, they just shoot by you. They weave in and out of traffic down the highways all over the place. They don't stop for anything. And when you stop at a light, they will always come up the middle or up the side, but they also come down the wrong direction to get to the front of the line. And nobody honks, nobody cares. I believe they're allowed to do that. If they're not, that's weird because they all do it. I never saw a single one of them stop behind a car ever. They just move up. It's the weirdest thing. And like the roads are really small and like that was crazy to me. And they just like push into the lanes they want. They rarely ever signal. That was the only time I've ever seen traffic where I was like, well, this is different.
Yeah.
And so when I was
Wow.
driving, I was just being very aware that there could be like a scooter or something next to me at any given point.
Yeah.
Just so like it was fine in the car, but yeah, it was just that was weird. I'm just not used to that. And they all go way faster. They're
Yeah.
like
Really, really.
160 down the highway and stuff. You're just like, okay.
Wow. Now, when you were driving from Athens to the little town where you stayed, what was the drive like as a Canadian, first time in Europe, and what was your drive like?
The drive was actually okay. The weather was perfect for it. It was just clear skies and stuff and nothing to worry about. So that was good. Um, the first hour or so, there really isn't a lot to see. And then eventually, I think it was an hour 15, then all of a sudden you could see the water at the side and stuff. So that was kind of cool. And some of the tunnels that went like directly through the mountain looked really neat. And obviously I get tunnels and water here too, but it's cool when you're in a different place and you get to see it there. So the drive was actually kind of nice. And then the mountain drive was kind of cool as well. Lots of really skinny parts, but lots of like nice, gentle, like just winds and stuff. So the drive down there was actually really nice. I believe it was 7 toll stations that I had to go through. I don't think I've ever done that before. Definitely not 7 on one drive. But yeah, it was neat. The whole thing was actually kind of cool, that part.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I can't quite imagine driving anywhere else other than Canada or the US, but that's because I've never done it. So I don't really know what that would be like to do. So yeah,
At least we're still on the same side of the road.
well, that's the upside. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
were in London, it would be a little bit different.
I don't know if I'd want
Trying
to
to
do that
trying to
there.
get used to that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'd be getting in the passenger door all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Try to figure it out. So now that you're home and you're settled, how long did it take you to sort of um, get your get your mind, body, soul all kind of into a place of balance at home?
Well, the nice thing, I had my cleaner came in while I was flying into Calgary, so I had that taken care of for me. So at least the place was going to look really nice when I got there. So I didn't have, just eliminate one stress at least. And then the first day, I just kind of unpacked all my stuff. I had a lot of work I had to do that night because I couldn't get it done because my trip got all messed up. So the last few days I was behind on my work. So even though it had been 22 hours since I woke up, when I got home, I still put 3 more hours of work in to get things caught up before Monday morning. But the next day, I did my workout. I had a coffee in the morning, which I don't always have, but I did. And my hands were super shaky, like even during my workout and after. And so I think I was still holding on to quite a bit of like pent up anxiety that I didn't allow myself to really experience while I was there, because I felt like being like frustrated or scared or whatever isn't going to help me in this situation. So I just kind of like kept myself calm and relaxed. But it took a lot of, I think, mental strength to do that. And so after the first day back here, when I knew everything was normal again, I think my body was still trying to let go of some of that, because then the next day I decided no caffeine at all, no stimulants of any kind, and I felt way better. And then on the third day, I felt normal. So
Okay. Yeah, I think when we're in a situation like that, it's like we actually go into some form of shock that keeps us kind of putting one foot in front of the other
yeah,
until we don't have to do that anymore. And then it's the energy can let go. And so it would make sense that your body would be a little trembly over that.
yeah,
And
for sure.
again,
And because even when I was able to finally take my second attempt at getting to Athens 2 days later, I was still like super nervous that like anything could happen. Like I ran over so many rocks and branches and trees. I'm like, I just want these tires to last. Do not break down at the side of the road. And in the middle of that drive, I realized too, is that I had purchased the insurance because I don't have a car here currently, so I don't have my own insurance that I could have used. So I purchased their insurance for the extended, like for the length of time I had the car. But when I extended it, I didn't sign anything saying that I was extending the insurance. I hadn't paid for it. So I actually wasn't sure if I was even covered if something happened. So I was like, oh, well, that's not ideal. But
mm,
again, the same thing that you said, I just was like, nope, just relax. There's nothing you can do. So I felt like I was constantly putting myself into a just one step at a time, one step at a time. There's nothing you can do. So just keep going.
yeah.
And even like my flights, because I was nervous, like what if one of them gets delayed, and like just because like everything had all of a sudden started falling apart, that I was just like, okay, I just need everything to just work until I get home, and then I'll be fine. And so I think I just never let myself actually deal or feel what was actually happening
Yeah.
until I got back.
It's like waiting to exhale.
Basically,
You
yeah,
know, kind of holding your breath going, "When can I" So on day 3, it's like,
yeah.
"Okay, I'm back and life goes on," and
That's probably the
amazing.
best way to put it, because that's how I felt. Like it was very like shallow breathing. You can't, like I couldn't be open. Like it was just like very contained the whole time. And so I didn't really realize I was doing that, but I didn't really have many other options to get through it comfortably.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, and I wonder, so I'm curious about one thing is, traveling alone or traveling with people. I think if you're traveling with somebody in a situation like that who is also, uh, someone who can be calm would actually make the experience easier to go through, whereas if the person was frantic over it, could make it a lot worse.
yeah, I thought about that too, as to like that part of the experience, because a lot of people said, "Oh, it would have been so much better if you had somebody there with you." And I was like, maybe, but maybe not. That might have added a whole nother level of stress that I would have had to deal with,
Mhm.
but possibly not. I have a pretty good ability to calm people down in a situation like that, I think, but it would be an additional level that I would have to do, so it would be even more stress on me when I got back.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could handle that, but I was almost easier on my own.
Exactly, exactly. So now that you're back home and you're back to work, do you feel like you've got everything caught up? You're doing your 14-day weight loss challenge.
Yep, that's going great. So that's good. Yeah, no, I'm totally caught up in everything. That's for sure. I'm like, immediately I just started pushing forward again. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. So started one of those that starts this coming Monday. So
Oh, sign me up.
I wish I could, but you're in the last one.
Oh, you can't sign me up for this one. I can't win $250.
Plus, I think some people might think that it was fixed if I were to let my mother win. But I already sent you another workout plan. You're good to go. You're
I'm
good.
just teasing you.
You're good.
I don't think your mother winning the $250 would look good on your business at all.
Well, I mean, at least they would know that I love my mother, so that's good.
Yeah, there's a little nepotism there.
Yeah, a little lack of integrity, but it's okay.
So this 14-day weight loss challenge that you do, I know you've got quite a few people signed up for that this time around.
Yeah.
What does that kind of involve for anybody who might want to join you?
Well, basically, I design nutrition plans and workout plans to allow people, to hopefully lose anywhere in the 2 to 10 pounds over the 14 days.
Mhm.
And then I add everybody to a Facebook group that I use as a place to kind of, engage with people, the motivation. I do a lot of my communication through there so that, keeps everyone engaged. So you get like the most out of those 14 days. And then ultimately the winner at the end is a combination of things. It's the person, that had good results, but that also was, engaged within the group and helped support others because it is still a community. I don't want it to be individual people battling each other. I want it to be everybody boosting everybody up. And then whoever does the overall best is the one that's going to get the 250.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, if somebody wanted to become a regular client of yours, do they need to live in Calgary?
No, no, I have clients all over the country, and I have I had one in the U.S. for a bit too, and I literally can train anybody from anywhere in the world, which is nice.
Yeah, well, you've been training me for a couple of years,
Yeah,
and although I've taken the last little bit off so I could move and get situated, but I'm back.
I know. I just sent it to you yesterday, so you're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So when a person is deciding to start out on this journey, what is probably the number one thing they should do as they make the decision to change lifestyle? What would be the number one thing they should do first? Like what needs to happen to get the ball rolling?
Well, I think having a support system of some kind is crucial. If you're going to take on a weight loss journey or any kind of fitness journey, really, um, if you have never done it before, there's so much to learn. There's so much to process. There's lots of information that contradicts each other. It's a lot, and not having someone there to support you through it, you could be spending months, years battling and not knowing where you're going. So if you hire a coach or you have someone in your life that knows it very well that can support you through it, that's great. But to try to do it on your own is a really hard process. So especially if you're new, hire a trainer at least for the first little bit until you feel comfortable. And then if you decide you really enjoy working with someone, keep going. If you feel like you can do it on your own, then you can make that choice then, but at least it's more educated.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's exciting to see. I know for me, when we were when we first started out, we met on FaceTime 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful to have that time together to number one, connect. I love that. There we are
Oh,
at your
my
at
little
your
gym.
fitness center. And yeah, I was in town for a few days and was able to work out with you in person. That was my favorite.
That was
That
great.
Oh my God. There's something about working out in person with you that really ups my game. Like I found that I really wanted to push further and harder than even, when I'm on my own, I push myself pretty good, but not like when when I've got you right there. It's like I
Yeah.
wanna I want to go that much further to uh, I don't know, just show you that I can. I want you
Well,
to
you
be
did everything
proud
that
of
I
me.
put in front of you, so you definitely did that.
I did. I did. Uh, my favorite thing was when I arrived and you saw me in person for the first time.
Yeah, after the weight loss and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was because I think your comment was, "Whoa, like you've done good." So something like that. Anyway, it was for me that was really positive to have that because I mean you'd seen photos all along,
yeah.
but to acknowledge that it seemed even better than what you noticed in the photographs was
Well, it was like over 50 pounds or whatever, and when you were just like in person, you can see every different angle and stuff, and it was like, wow, that is a huge difference from where we
yeah,
started.
where we started.
Well,
Well,
I don't know how long was it before I'd seen you? Like 2 years before that?
it had been 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was a night
So
and day difference. Holy.
yeah, it was a really big difference. Well, we're coming up to the end of our time together. And so what would be sort of quick tips you could leave? Oh, there I am. Working out with my son. He's pushing me to the limits.
Yeah,
Yes, doing all these different exercises. Boy, it was good work. It was good work.
that was my
Garden of
favorite.
Jacob's ladder.
The thing is
That's
so much harder than it looks.
it is, but you know what? It's really fun. And then of course the ropes, those are heavy. That was heavy duty. All right. So in closing, what are the, top points? You decide, you watch this and you go, hey, I'm going to get fit so I can travel the world and not get too worried about things. What do I need to know?
Well, if you're looking to get in shape, the biggest thing is you need to have a solid nutrition plan, a workout plan, and the most important thing of all of them is consistency with whatever it is that you say you want to do. If you want to go to the gym 3 times a week, then go to the gym 3 times a week, even if it's for 20 minutes and all you do is walk on a treadmill. If you keep the consistency going, then you become a gym goer. You aren't just someone trying to lose weight. And there's a big
Yeah,
difference between the two because the losing weight, you'll just go up and down forever. If you are
yeah,
consistent within the gym, even with your ups and downs, they're tighter and you'll still see consistent results over time. So that's the biggest one.
exactly. Exactly. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your journey of this rather traumatic event and also your wisdom around overall health, because I think that's such an important part for all of us, especially as we're aging, to make sure that we keep moving, that we, eat foods that really nourish and nurture our bodies, and that we take the time to care for our well-being through self-acceptance and nurturing and just being good to ourselves overall.
Excellent.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Mother.
I love you so much.
Love you too.
Well, everybody, this is the Joy Show for another week. I'll be back next week. You're watching the Joy Show on the New Thought Media Network. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and maybe donate to newthoughtmedia.org, ntmedia.org. Hit the donate link and keep this channel up and running. Good news for good people, for a world that is truly, truly life-giving. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deja, for producing this. Much love, everybody.